Hello everyone and welcome to an exciting episode on the channel. We are already going to take a quick break from the engine swap series on my Golf. Don't worry, the next episode we are immediately getting back to it. But I have been kind of sick of having to hide my new car for you guys, and I'm also really excited to show it to you. So in this episode I am going to reveal what is my new daily.
All my friends, yellow rider.
This is my 2003 R53 Mini Cooper S. It is part of the first generation of Minis that came out after BMW took over the company in the early 2000s. These cars are now almost 20 years old, but in my opinion they still look very modern for today's standards. What is kind of old school though is what lives under the bonnet of these things. It is a 1.6 liter 16 valve engine that puts out about 163 horsepower at the crank. But what makes this engine special is that there is a supercharger sitting on top of it. The supercharger might not be as compact or as efficient as a turbocharger, but it really gives the car a special touch, as you'll see once we go for a test drive later on in this video. These cars are amazing platforms for driving enthusiasts, so it is no surprise that there is a large community built around them, and I can't wait to become a part of it. I have moved the Mini back into the shop because, of course, as soon as I start filming outside, it is raining. So we are going to talk about how all of this came about from inside of the shop, and I am going to explain why this has been one of my dream cars for the longest time. And speaking of dream cars, that brings us to today's video sponsor, which is BOTB. BOTB is the dream car competition company who give away 2 cars every week in their dream car and midweek competitions. And as well as lowering all their ticket prices, they have now added £50,000 to every single car in the dream car competition. They currently have 150 different cars that can be won if your age is 17 years or older. There are some incredible cars in their lineup, like this BMW E30 M3 or this classic Porsche 911, which both come with the additional £50,000 that is included in every car of the Dream Car competition. But my personal favorite in their lineup is this second generation Audi Quattro with a value of £45,000. I actually might have a go at this one, to be honest. The Dream Car competitions end every Sunday at midnight, so go take a look at botb.com if you want to have a chance at winning one of these amazing cars. I want to extend a massive thank you to the people over at BOTB for sponsoring this video, because it truly helps my channel to make awesome content, and I hope that you guys appreciate it as well. So go take a look at their website in the description below, and thanks again BOTB for sponsoring this video. So, I think I've got a lot of explaining to do, because I think that a lot of you weren't suspecting that I was going to replace the Audi anytime soon. After all, it is the perfect daily on paper. Well, the fact of the matter is that during the past few months I realized that the Audi is not really for me, and there are a couple of reasons for that. And the first reason is that it is kind of boring to drive. Although the Audi has quattro all-wheel drive and a reasonable amount of power, it doesn't really do anything for me as a driving experience. And the main issue I have with it is that it is just too heavy. Especially in the corners, the car doesn't feel that dynamic, which is something that is really important for me. And if you combine that with a really slow automatic gearbox and a diesel sound that isn't really too inspiring, it gets boring really quick. So after driving the Audi around for a couple of months, I kind of lost my excitement for the car, but at least it was getting me around reasonably comfortable and reliable. But during recent times, that last aspect, the reliability, has taken kind of a hit. Since I have filmed the video where I repaired everything that was broken on the car, the third brake light has broken, there is a crack in the expansion tank for the coolant, and I kind of feel like there is a noise developing in the engine that is sounding like an injector failing, which will not be cheap to repair. So even though I'm spending a lot of money, the car just keeps breaking. And if you also take into account that it isn't the most pleasant car in the world to work on, it kind of made me decide to get something else. And that is how all of this came about. So now let's talk about why I bought a Mini. So how did I end up with a Mini? Well, it might come as a surprise to you, but I actually always have been a big fan of Mini as a brand. For example, a classic Mini is definitely one of my bucket list cars that I hopefully will get in the near future. So when I was looking around for something that was fun to drive, a Cooper S was immediately on my radar. Initially, I was looking around for an R56 since I kind of liked the look of them a bit more than the R53, but then I noticed that the engines that are in those Cooper S's aren't really the best in the world. And I also had the impression that they are slightly larger and more comfortable than the R53. And I kind of like cars with a sporty, harsh suspension, so that made me go look at an R53. So in my search for an R53, I visited about 3 cars here in Belgium, and all of them were in pretty terrible condition. And in general, there wasn't a lot of cars on offer, so that made me decide to go take a look at the market in the Netherlands. And actually, the first car I went to visit in the Netherlands is this one that I bought for little over 4,000 euros. It is the cleanest one that I could find for less than 5,000 euros. And if you also take into account that it has really low mileage, I am pretty stoked with my purchase. My Mini has just over 100,000 kilometers or 60,000 miles depending where you come from, which is a big selling point to me since low mileage examples are getting hard to find. Another selling point to me is the great condition of the interior and the paintwork. It really looks like somebody took good care of this car. That trend continues under the bonnet. Everything looks very clean and leak-free. According to the previous owner, the car has recently had its radiator and expansion tank replaced, which are nice bonuses. The car doesn't have too many fancy options like a panoramic roof or heated seats, but it has cruise control, air conditioning and xenon headlights, which are the most important ones to me. But that doesn't mean that the car is perfect, so let's quickly walk around everything that is not so good. Both the passenger and the driver's side window have these weird scratches that were probably caused when the windows were moving up and down with dirt sitting in between the seams or something. Another related issue is that the passenger window doesn't want to move at all. It seems like the motor is blocked, so the door panel will probably need to come off at some point. The next issue is a bit more serious. On cold startup, I have the feeling that my supercharger makes a pretty loud grinding noise. I have read that a bit of noise is normal, but this seems a bit excessive to me. Please let me know in the comments what your opinion is. I bought the car knowing that the noise was there and that the supercharger might need some work, but I was always planning on taking it out anyway, since we are going to mess around with reduction pulleys to give the car some more power, and I was going to do a service to it anyway, so yeah, that is no biggie. But literally yesterday another issue got added to the list, and that was something that I didn't know beforehand, and it is kind of an unpleasant surprise. I came home from work, I wanted to get some groceries after, and when I started the car I had completely no power steering. I think it is an issue that a lot of these R53s have, because there is a lot of documentation to be found about the power steering issues on these cars, so I have some hope that I might be able to fix it tonight. The electro-hydraulic power steering pumps in these minis are prone to fail. If I'm not mistaken, BMW even did a recall for this issue. Mine looks like it is on its way out as well, but before buying a replacement pump, let's see if we can try to fix this one. So this is the power steering fan and this is a power steering pump, and I kind of feel that this doesn't really want to move all that freely. I think I'm going to take it off real quick. It seems to be turning pretty much normally and I don't see anything out of the ordinary, so I'm going to put it back on the car and see if it is spinning at all. Maybe it's not getting any power or something like that, but we'll see about that. So on some of the forums I have read that the power steering fan should be working when the AC is activated, so I'm gonna turn on the AC and see if it is turning. Okay, so turning on the AC, maybe some of the fans. Okay, that's blowing. And now let's check. That is not turning. Okay, that might be the problem. So the power steering fan is not turned on, which causes the steering pump to overheat and go into like a safe mode maybe, I don't know. So I'm quickly going to check the fuses, maybe something is blown there, and then we can go on from there. So this box, fuse number 8, is a tiny fan icon, so I'm going to check that one quickly. That seems to be in okay shape. But I believe there is another fuse panel at the footwell, so we are going to look there next. Okay, so I think I might have found our problem. So over here is the little fuse box, and these are the icons, and over here there is this little steering icon. It's a 5 amp fuse, and if I take it out, this is that fuse, and that is totally kaput. So I'm going to replace that, and luckily there are these spares located in this row, and there is a 5 amp fuse still in there, so I'm going to use that, replace it, and then see if the fan works, and hopefully that will mean that our pump keeps working as well. Yeah, that's still okay. Okay, let's lift up the car and see. Yeah! Okay, that's some good news. Okay, so I guess that works now. I'm going to take the car out for a test drive and see if the power steering pump keeps working. I can't take you guys with me because it's dark outside, but if that fixes it, we'll go for a nice drive tomorrow. So yeah, I'm not even going to bother with going for a test drive because the power steering was immediately gone when I put the car on the ground. I'm probably going to have to take the pump of the car, open it up, and maybe I can clean something out. I've read that a lot of people do that as well. But if I'm not mistaken, the previous owner has told me that somebody has already done that for him on the car. So I think that the pump is just going to need to be replaced. But yeah, that's life. I'll give you guys an update the next time I'm working on this car, and then we can continue with our issues. The next day after work, I started to take out the pump so that it can be taken apart. Being an electrical pump means that it is very easy to take it out, since that there are no belts involved. First, the mounting brackets need to come off. Then there are 3 screws that hold on the housing. It looks like the previous owner wasn't lying when he said that the pump was cleaned out before. I didn't spot any issues yet, so let's dive deeper. The armature assembly is held in by a clip that needs to be removed, and then it can be driven out of its bearing. Okay. That reveals the carbon brushes, which all seem to be in good shape. On the other side of this black panel are the electronics for this pump, so I want to remove it and see if there are any contaminants in there. To take it off, some of the contacts need to be cut away with a Dremel. I was kind of hoping that this PCB would be filled with carbon and that maybe by cleaning it out everything would work again, but it looks pretty clean in there. Together with my brother everything was checked and soon we found the problem. So yesterday night my brother and me went over the electronics of the pump, hoping that we would find some kind of short circuit that would be easily fixable. But we didn't really spot any issues, and this PCB and all the other stuff looked pretty clean, so that wasn't the issue. But then I started looking to the coils again, and I spotted some wires that are broken. Here there is this tiny wire that broke, and on the other side there is a breakage as well. So I think it's safe to say that the coil is the issue for my pump. So this is probably why my pump stopped working, and it is something that I can't really fix. I did consider soldering it back, but that doesn't seem like the best solution in this case. So that is why I took my favorite parts hauler and drove 1 hour into the Netherlands to a company that specializes in mini parts. And there I got this new replacement pump. They took this off one of their parts minis and assured me that this one is working. But before I am going to install it on the car, I think I'm going to open it up quickly just to see that it's not filled to the brim with carbon deposits. After cleaning out the pump, I installed it again, which didn't take too long. If you want a detailed explanation on how to install one of these, I strongly recommend taking a look at Mod Mini here on YouTube. With the pump completely installed, I'm filling up the circuit with power steering fluid. Then with the engine running, I'm turning the wheels a couple of times to bleed out any air bubbles. The power steering issues are fixed, so now let's go for a drive. Okay, so I am not going to do a complete review of the car, not only because I'm terrible at it, but also because the video would otherwise become 2 hours long. But I do want to share everything that I like about this thing, and there is a lot. What is awesome about this car is how heavy everything is. For example, the gear shifter is very notchy and very heavy, and it is really rewarding once you make a shift. I also like how heavy the clutch pedal is. I don't know why, but for some reason I like it. And every time I get into another car, it kind of feels like the clutch pedal is not connected or anything. It's really soft. But I do really love how heavy it is. But what I really like is how heavy and how fast the steering is of this car. You don't need a lot of input to make it go somewhere, and I kind of like it. And then there is a supercharger whine. There are also some things that I'm not really a fan of. For example, the dashboard is very squeaky and rattly. I think in that regard an R56 is a much better car. Something else that I kind of find annoying is how small the gas tank is. It is only 40 liters, and if you know that the car consumes about 10 liters each 100 kilometers, yeah, you can only drive 400 kilometers until you have to go to a petrol station, which is not really that nice. But other than that, I don't really have a lot of complaints, and I really think that this is a car that suits me very well, and I don't see myself selling this in the foreseeable future. And speaking of the future, we can maybe quickly talk about everything that I have planned for this thing. So first of all, I want to fit a reduction pulley and a new intercooler and then get a tune. That way I want to get the car into the 200 horsepower range. And then I want to do the things that everybody does to their minis, which is a chrome delete, some nice wheels, some AP coilovers maybe, and I want to get rid of this stupid 2-spoke steering wheel. I am going to use this car every day, but from time to time I also want to take it to the track, and it needs some upgrades for that. And maybe down the road this will be my full-time track car, who knows. As it is starting to rain pretty badly, I think it is a good time to close off the video here. I hope you are excited for everything that is coming to the channel and to this car. It is going to take some while before we start working on it, but in the meanwhile you can enjoy the engine swap on my Mark 1 Golf. So yeah, that is everything I've got for you today. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time.